So once you've opened the Virtual World Starter Code link in the final project folder on Schoology, you want to make sure that you always click Remix in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. That just saves it into your stuff, so it's not saved elsewhere. It's always going to be in your stuff once you hit Remix, and everything you change to the code will also change in your stuff. So just like any of our other projects, before we start doing anything, we want to rename the project. So it's going to be your name. So I'm going to say Miss Paspalis. Create your own world. I'm just going to rename it Final Project, because it is the Virtual World project, but it is our final project, so we'll just leave it at that. So the first thing we need to do is code our player. So we need to add code to our player, which is this blue square here, so that they can move up, down, left, and right. Now we've done this plenty of times in other projects and other programs, but I'll just walk you through the steps. So we always start with an event when the green flag is clicked. I'm going to pull over my forever loop, and then I'm going to do an if-then loop, and if the up arrow key is pressed, then we will change, where is it? We will change y by 2. So we've tackled the up arrow, and when I press the green flag, now I could move the player up. But I still can't move the player left, right, or down. So on your own, you have to program your player to be able to use the different keys to move it around the screen. So now I have the program to move my player in all directions. I can move my player, if I click the green flag, I can move my player right, I can move him left, down, and up. And if you see here, just like our other programs, up and down, you're changing Y because that's the Y axis. Right and left, you are changing X because that's the X axis. And if you also notice, when I'm pressing the down arrow, I'm changing Y in the negative direction because in a coordinate plane, down is negative, and same for left. Left in a coordinate plane is also negative, so I'm changing X by a negative value there. So once we do this, I can move my player, and this light gray line here, this is like a barrier. So kind of like the boat project that we did where the brown was the barrier. In this project, the gray line is the barrier. So right now, I'm able to freely pass through the gray barrier. So we need to fix our program so that the player needs to travel around the barrier, can't go through. So what I'm going to add, I'm going to go to control. Let me just press the stop sign. I'm going to go to control, and I'm going to add if touching color. And then I'm going to click on the square and then click on the light gray. So if touching color, I don't want the player to go back to the beginning. So I have my if touching color, and I'm going to program this to work with the up arrow. So if touching color, I want the player to bounce back a little bit. So I am going to change Y by -2. And I'm going to put this inside my if up arrow press loop. So there's an if then loop inside an if then loop. And you are going to do the same thing for the down arrow, right arrow, and left arrow. So I will do that quickly and show you how I do that. So I'm just duplicating my code just so that I don't have to pull over the blocks over and over again. I will have to change a few things, but this just makes it a little easier. So if up arrow pressed, and it touches the gray, I'm going to move back 2. The down arrow is pressed. I will maybe change it +2 because that's in the negative. We don't want them to keep going down. So I'll change Y by +2. Right arrow, we need to change X. Same thing by -2. And then we pull out the change Y, put in the change X, and I will make that 2. So let's see if that works. So I'm going, I hit the gray. Can't go around the gray now. I can slide along the gray, but I can't go through the gray. Let's try to go around the gray. Not hit that pink block there. Perfect. Works exactly like we want it to. And now this code will work for the entire game. So if we want to add levels with more light gray barriers, it will work. Any level we go to, it will now work. So for step 4, coding your world, we want to add code to allow the player to walk through doors into other rooms. So in our starter project, we have this background, and in this background, in this backdrop, we have this orange door here. So we want to add code so that when the player reaches the orange door, we get to our second room. Now, if you click on the backdrops, if you notice, there are 3 rooms that are already preset into this program. So you have room 1, room 2, and room 3. For this game, it would be really helpful for the player to know exactly what room they're in. So we need to add a new variable to keep track of what room the player is in. So I'm going to go to the player code, click on the script. I'm going to go to data, make a variable, and I'm going to name that variable room number. For all sprites, click OK. So when the player touches the orange door in the first room, the next backdrop should be displayed, and the player should move back to the left side of the stage. So if he travels through room 1, gets to the orange door, we needed to switch to room 2, and we need the player to end up in the left side of the stage. So we are going to take an if-then loop, and we're going to do if touching color orange. We want to switch backdrop to, we'll just say next backdrop because they're all programmed in order. So if we say next backdrop, it'll automatically go to room number 2. And then we're going to add go to x -200 and y 0. So this go to block will program the player to start off in the middle of the left-hand side of the stage when it gets to room 2. And then we also want to change the room number. So we are going to change room number by 1. And now we have our variable, and we're going to put this in the forever loop at the bottom, inside the forever loop, but not in any of the other if-then loops. So we have this variable, and one thing that we always have to do, we all know this, we've done this plenty of times before, we need to set that variable in the beginning of our code. So when the program starts, the player will be in room 1, so we're going to set room number to 1. This is our reset code we're adding here. We're going to just reset our player to start at a certain spot, the left-hand side of the stage. And we always want the player to start in room 1, so we'll switch backdrop to room 1. Okay, so these three, the set room number to 1, go to X -200, Y 0, and switch backdrop to room 1. Those 3 blocks are our reset code. So let's see how this works. So press the green flag. It starts off on the left side of the stage. I'm going to make my way to the orange block, the orange door, I mean, and I get there. Now I'm in room 2. I started off on the left-hand side of the stage, and my room number changed to room number 2. So the next set of code that we need to add for step 4, coding your world, is we need to add code to make your player move to the previous room when they touch the yellow door. So we're going to do the same kind of thing that we did for the code for when the player touches the orange door to get into the next room. So I'm going to go to Control, pull over, and if-then loop, and if touching color yellow, go to Looks, switch backdrop to previous backdrop, we're going to have the player go to +200, positive X200, Y0, so that the player ends up on the right side of the stage, not the left. And then we will change the room number by -1 because it's going back to a different room. So I'm going to just insert that set of code inside the forever loop, but under the if touching color orange then loop. So that's my one if then loop, and I put that right under it. I press the green flag. So right now I'm on room 1. I'm traveling to that orange door around the gray barrier. Get to the orange door. Now I'm here. I'm in room number 2. Our variable changed to 2. But say I want to go back to room number 1. I'm going to go to the yellow door. Now I'm back in room number 1. Okay? My variable changed back to 1, and I ended up on the right side of the stage. So for step 5, signs, you want to add code to the signs in your world to guide the player along their journey. So our project actually includes a welcome sign sprite. So I have my welcome sign sprite right next to the player, and it appears in room number 1. We need to add code so that this sign will only be visible in room 1. Since this is the welcome sprite and the player starts off in room 1, we only want this welcome sign to show up in room 1. So I'm going to click on the sign. I'm going to add my event when the green flag is clicked. We're going to add an if-then-else loop. So we're going to say this. If room number equals 1, then we want the welcome sprite to show. At all other times, so if room does not equal 1, we want the welcome sprite to hide. Now for this to happen throughout the entire program, throughout the entire time the player is playing the game, we add our forever loop and connect it to that green flag. So let's test out our sign by moving between rooms and see if our sign is only visible in room 1. So I have my green flag clicked. We're moving, we're traveling, trying to get to the orange door. And now I'm on room 2, and you notice that welcome sign is gone. So that works perfectly like we wanted it to. So as I have my program coded currently. When I do get to the welcome sign, I just get to the welcome sign. It's not much good if the welcome sign doesn't say anything. So let's add more code in a separate block to display some sort of message if the sign is touching the player. So what we can do, we pull over another if then else. So if the welcome sign is touching the player, nope, not person, we want player, then we're going to have the welcome sign say something. So maybe I'll do welcome to game. Can you travel through each level to get to the You can really put in any kind of welcome or introductory phrase, whatever you really want. So if it's touching player, then we want to say this. At all other times, we don't want the welcome sign to be saying anything. So you can actually just do say nothing. Okay? It's just good habit to complete that if then else loop. So I'm just going to put it inside my forever loop, but under the other if then else loop. So let's test out your sign and see if a message pops up when the player touches it. So I restart. Now my player's touching. As long as my player is touching, the sign is saying the welcome message. And whenever I'm not touching the sign, the welcome message goes away. Perfect. So in step 6, people, we want to add code to the person sprite so that the person talks to the player and so that the player only appears in room 1. So here we go. I'm going to click on the person sprite, which is the pink block. Add my event when the green flag is clicked. I want it to go to a certain starting point. So here we go again with our reset code. So I'm going to pull over, go to X, let's say X0, and Y negative 150. So just like we did for the welcome sign, we're going to do the same kind of thing for this person sprite. So an if then else loop. So if the person is touching the player, then we are going to have the person say a little message. So maybe give the player some sort of hint. So I'm going to write, did you notice? Let's not say notice. Did you know that you can go through orange and yellow doors? Try it. And again, you can really make this message anything you want, but try to make it some sort of hint for the player to progress through levels of the game. And just like the welcome sign, if it's not touching the player, all other times we want it to not say anything. So I'm going to attach that to that set of reset code there, and then add a forever loop, just so it happens throughout the whole game. So let's see if this works. I'm going down, I'm trying to travel to touch this person here. Did you know Oh, I had a little typo there. So did you know that you can go through orange and yellow doors? Try it. Perfect. So we know that works. So you could also allow your person to move, okay? So the person won't be in one spot by using a motion block. So move 10 steps, or maybe move 5 steps would be good. I don't want it to move too fast. So move 5 steps, and then if on edge, bounce. So it's just going to move back and forth and bounce off the edges of the screen. If you want the person to move faster, you can make it move faster. If you want it to move slower, you can change it to something like 1 step, and now they're moving really slow. So it all just depends on what you want. I think I'm going to go with 4. 4 seems good to me. So let's see. Perfect. The player is now moving. So what we also want to do is we want to add code so that the person only shows up when we're in room 1. We don't want this person to be visible throughout the entire code. So if, let's do room number equals 1, kind of like what we did before. So if room number equals 1, then we want the person to be showing. If room number equals anything else, then we want the person to be hiding. So I can also put that in my forever loop. I'm going to stop and see if it works. So my player's going to go to the orange door, but this person here, the pink block, is still moving. Now I'm going to room 2, and perfect, the pink block is gone.